ye Wanwu TV. Matye Kigalwang.
Beditwal kudiku mucho maleng titwal maching adek ini tekanongo one kan is studio kador iwo yup me Rupiny Tin kache fridio TV set mamega dia wabedo ichawa on your segment moloni loklo wabedo kami yo headlines girango matete me ikit me yupo liel pa Right Honorable Dr. Jacob Olanya kumedi dong ichawa me abogala motiki wele matika akidul makiloni Nafophanu kile muono kiloni National Forum for People Living with HIV/AIDS Network Uganda. Gene bo manok wero matien po bolebo bologo lebwa matakatwal bolegoni uye kong wa team kong interview eni ki leb mono watamne Dano en uberki care mene amiro ngi gina ngo matiti meken Dano magitika tuo ki tuo Jonyo lok me COVID-19 ke kwanya ke gang Dano ti wortni ning jomagiti ki tuo me HIV ki bene yara gwera me COVID-19 ki ti wortni ning ken Dano magiti ki tuo Jonyo amire kong ofreba ko kwong ki interview man kadok wa meta nyim welcome Leah Alufo.
Thank you for your Matye.
Be
Ichoma bele.
Achoma be.
Afo etwa Madam Leah Obedo communication officer on your PRO public relations officer me Nafophanu National Forum for People Living with HIV/AIDS Network Uganda. Yotiko ni watini kitewinyo la wara emba wale malay tutwali mete kama winki for time. We just need to know briefly. Maybe you tell us about Nafophanu. She said it's a bit lengthy and kind of he bring it down a bit. Yes, what is Nafophanu all about?
For your Matye, good morning, viewers. Ichoma be from wherever you are. I'm happy to be on one door today.
You're most welcome.
And mainly speaking to our people living with HIV in Gulu, Arua, and all those areas in northern Uganda. Is Leah Alupo. I'm the Communications and Public Relations Officer of the National Forum of People Living with HIV and AIDS Networks Uganda, Nafophanu. So Nafophanu was founded in 2003, and it was mainly founded to coordinate networks of people living with HIV, as well as forums and support groups to ensure that they play policy and decision-making roles in the HIV partnerships. Nafophanu has 30 networks. It includes networks of young people, which is Uganda Young Positives. We also have Uganda Network of Young People Living with HIV, UNIPA. We also have for women, which is the International Community of Women Living with HIV Eastern Africa. We also have a national network for men. Yes, it's called POMO, which is a Positive Men's Union. And then finally, we also look at the armed forces, we look at the religious leaders and teachers as well, under a group that is called Teachers Against AIDS. We also have district forums. So we have one in Arua, we have one in Gulu. Every district has at least people living with HIV forum, and those are the people who are in the grassroots trying to help out the people who are living with HIV in different districts.
I see. When we talk about COVID-19, where about that? I don't know what the situation is like among people living with HIV/AIDS pertaining COVID-19 since that breakdown of lockdown. Now we're in a free economy, and tell us about that briefly.
Okay, thank you so much for your Matye. I love the language.
You should be like it, by the way.
I actually understand everything. Now I need to patch up the sentences.
To fix it in,
Yes. The situation of COVID-19 would be better analyzed when we first look at what happened during the lockdown, and then we look at after the lockdown and way forward. During the lockdown, we noticed that COVID-19 took a center stage, and most of the interventions were moved to COVID-19, and HIV was left out. Not only HIV, I also know that other diseases like TB, diseases like diabetes were left out. So,
what do you mean when you said they're left out?
Were left out. It meant that priority was given to COVID-19, and yet again, HIV response, we have targets to meet. We have an ambitious target, the global target of the 95, 95, and 95, which we are supposed to meet. So far, we have met the first two 95s, and the last one is what we need to achieve. So the situation was bad. We as Nafophanu, together with development partners, decided to do a rapid assessment to find out what is the impact of COVID to the people living with HIV. And one of the things we noticed was that people are having challenges in receiving their ARVs, and therefore we felt that it was important that people receive their ARVs, because without those ARVs, it means if someone can't swallow the medicine, then the immune system will be weakened.
How did the challenge come about, receiving ARVs, when we are well aware the hospitals are open and everything was on?
Oh, that's a very good one. The challenge was that some of our members in communities had not disclosed their HIV status to their communities, to their leaders, even to their families. And some, you'd find that maybe someone is from Teso, Soroti, and someone comes to Mbali to take medicine. So when they imposed the ban on public transport, it affected them, because now they couldn't go to Mbali to pick their medication. But we want to thank government through Ministry of Health. They were able to to ensure that people living with HIV can go and pick their ARVs or their ART refills from the nearest health facilities. And that was done ably well. Another thing that we noticed was food. Most of the people were locked down in homes, therefore they could not go to. People decided to take drug holidays. People decided, to avoid the medication, because the ARVs are a bit strong. They can't be taken in an empty stomach. So that got us also again to start, reprogramming. Instead of saying let's do empowerment, empowerment programs and etc., let's concentrate on food. So we have our people take their medication. So we want to thank development partners. We had UNAIDS come on board, we had the Embassy of Ireland come on board, and the Aga Khan Foundation recently that donated some food items to people of Kampala and Arua district. So we won't say that we have sorted the food issue completely, but we're able to chip in at that time when they needed it most, and we continue to see that we get ways of people continuing to take their medication without having challenges. And then,
I wanted to find out with regard to COVID-19, the lockdown and all these effects, things like unemployment, homelessness, health insurance. How are people living with HIV/AIDS are coping with all of this? Because we know these are things that are happening.
Okay, issues of unemployment, homelessness. I really will not speak much to it, because I won't say I have statistics for it. But I also know that people living with HIV are, facing challenges in regards to employment. You apply for a job and you're very competent. You've gone through the interview very well, and eventually they ask you submit your results, and when they find you're positive, that's the end of it. You're not employed.
So is there any action taken against that? Because the country's law doesn't abide by that.
Well, sometimes we are really trying to ensure that we engage private sector together with all these people, the employers in workplaces, to ensure that they are considered in places where they are competent enough. I wanted to add on, when you asked that question, there was another thing that came up as a result of the lockdown. The issue of stigma and discrimination. People were forced to disclose status.
Yeah, because of underlying diseases.
Underlying diseases, yes, but also there was that bit of, I need a letter, that RDC letter to move around or to go and pick my medication from hospitals. So our people living with HIV were forced to go to the RDCs to pick the letters, and in the process, you have to declare your status, and yet we encourage disclosure, but it should be voluntary and not forced. So we are now battling issues of stigma and discrimination, because now the community knows about it, your family members knows about it, and therefore people now are stigmatizing themselves. So stigma, I'm HIV positive, now my sister knows, my brother knows. And then there's also that stigma from the surrounding that now we are battling with going forward. And again, Uganda AIDS Committee with UNAIDS and Nafophanu, we developed the application of ending HIV stigma and discrimination in Uganda. Because recently.
Yes, pertaining family, don't you think it's important for family members to be aware of your status, basing on the assistance that you may need, support you need, in case of anything?
Oh, that's a very good one. Yes, we actually encourage people living with HIV to disclose their status, especially to your partner and even the immediate family and even community. Why not? But it should not be forced. So what we always encourage families to do is to create an enabling environment. Do not be so hard on Leah because you think Leah is positive. Be soft, and eventually maybe Leah will come and say, you know what? I am HIV positive. And it's very good because if you disclose to family, it means you now take medication freely.
Support and
everything. Yeah, they can even help you go pick it, and they can even support you in terms of nutrition because it's very important to have a balanced diet as you take the ARVs. So it's encouraged that we disclose to our partners, we disclose to family, if possible disclose to community, no problem. That's what, activism is, advocacy is. When you live openly, you bring more people to your group. And even people who live openly have better coping mechanisms because you don't have any stigma whatsoever and any fear.
You mentioned that you're battling with stigmatization right now. How are you doing that now?
Okay, we are having interventions to eradicate HIV stigma and discrimination. One of them is that the policy guidelines I talked about that we launched, we had a countrywide dissemination exercise through Uganda AIDS Commission, mainly, telling them the guidelines of how to handle
briefly about the
situations.
Just a brief hint on the guidelines.
It was a rights-based approach that guides people living with HIV in schools, in workplaces, in places of worship, and etc. But again, the guideline was informed by the National Stigma Index that we launched in 2013, and then the second one in 2019. So what was found in the National PLHIV Stigma Index is what now informed the national policy guidelines on
who does the guidelines target? Does it target the district official? Because when you talk of the right-based approach, it means you need to respect the right of person living with HIV/AIDS, like in decision making, in terms of receiving goods and services. So who do you exactly target in the guidelines? Targeting people living with HIV/AIDS or the policymakers at the district level?
Yes, that's a good one. Policymakers, yes. The guideline is open, because I told you stigma and discrimination is two-way. Yeah. There is for the community, but there is also that one that is individual. So it's open to policymakers. For instance, I know that the media has a role to play.
Yes.
I also know that the religious leaders have a role to play. The employers have a role to play, and mainly we're pushing it to the respective ministries so that it can cascade down. So it is a document that is open to public, and everyone is free to read it and ensure that at least implementation is done. And we think that we can end stigma and discrimination. But apart from that, we have also gone to our online pages, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp. We are disseminating messages there. For instance, stigma and discrimination sometimes is as a result of lack of information. Trying to, give out as more information as possible, but also encourage people like health workers and etc. to be welcoming when these people come to hospitals rather than stigmatizing them. And we shall end stigma and discrimination.
Let's talk about the COVID-19 vaccine. So much has been said. Sometimes people have myths, people have been scared. What is the uptake like amongst people living with HIV/AIDS?
Okay, that's a good one. Personally, I must say I was also scared at first. I was scared because of all, that information that was on social media and etc. But then, maybe to come back to that question, I want to say that we are receiving good feedback in regards to uptake of the vaccine. Most of our people, through interaction, through calls with coordinators, and even we have a WhatsApp group for people living with HIV. Most people have declared that they have gotten the vaccine and with minimal side effects. And I also want to thank our board chairperson, Dr. Stephen Matye, who was among the first people to go public to take the vaccine. Wow. So he was exemplary to all of us. We all emulated, and most of us now are vaccinated. And also we still continue to encourage people living with HIV to get vaccinated because, we are the most at risk, because of the underlying causes. So we encourage them to get vaccinated. personally, I also do so. The organization, the district forums, and all the national networks are encouraging people living with HIV from getting the COVID-19.
You know, talking about adverse reactions, I don't know whether you have any information about that. All through good news, I don't know. When you talk about the vaccines of COVID-19, in terms of side effects.
And I want to say that all vaccines have at least some side effects. And I think for COVID-19 it goes up to about 11% of people with side effects. Yes, so apart from those, those obvious minimal side effects like maybe valve groups or in any of our forums for people living with HIV in regards to the COVID-19 vaccine.
Could there be any challenge of getting the vaccines? The government has given a lot here and there.
We have not. Again, maybe I want to thank the government. We have not had issues of challenges on getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Yeah, the vaccines are readily available. Only that
some have been expiring.
Yes, there's a time I was watching TV and they said AstraZeneca is expiring because people are preferring the one dose.
Okay.
But apart from that, the vaccines are readily available and our people are taking the vaccines.
Okay.
Kakare, Meno Obedo, Papa Communication Officer, National Park, Uganda, Madam Lea Lupo, anyway, to get a training, Kachekema, Kaneno, we keep no COVID-19 no too. No, Kenema, Wabia, Momo, in Jumatica Pop, Jonyo, she was when you call, Moma, Julia in Titewa, Kepaniti Network, Uganda, districts of Uganda. Kenutino, one organizations, so apart when you get in the but the Konyo was what Kimberly Ma, the boy, Kimberly no Moyat, Kimberly no Point, Kimberly no Cham, Kimberly Poma Bear, a society of America, men on time, I'm open to penetrate my wife, Kimberly Bear, teach, Kimberly no Pajo, no Kerry insurance, Gemma Egnikono, Gematica Port, Jonyo, Tieni, and record to 12 petty we enter. Report magino Dano tika lemere Dano choke mon mot keep my call on what kere pa dok ma you ma check man one TV station of being at Matye ki galawang ramamana one for check
Mana ye one TV Matye ki galawang.
Twal Amir Joli me a ke iwe manok enani wachi kan kudok mo choma lengo twal me ching adek indikador iwo yuk me Rupiny Tin anwani ket flavor tin ya yo madani watike welo makiloni ni lea alupo entika a ki bordul makiloni Nafophanu National Forum for People Living with HIV/AIDS Network Uganda gene jonwi manok abbreviation e bo dakbo watika neno dano magitiki tuo jonyo gitika kwoni ning tutwale ikar eni madong kitiako gengo me gengo what pa COVID-19 ni lok ma gwera kono yara gwera gitika nongone no gipe ka nongone chene nyo teach me pe ching dano kono dano magitiki kwa tika kwa kituo jonyo gitika kwoni ning wale ni watikile muono pian welwa matien tak patwal so ye wa foi tutwa no ye watike lep in le welcome again.
Thank you for your Matye.
At least now you're picking something.
You're doing very well.
You're trying.
If you come here more often, you'll be at 10%.
Yes, and I'll be grateful.
Yes. So let's talk about COVID-19 vaccines again. The uptake among people living with HIV. Is it possible to take these vaccines at the same time together with ARVs?
Oh, thank you so much, Emma, for your Matye. That one I can't forget.
You can't forget that one.
Yes. So these vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccines, the research has been done and it was cleared that ARVs can be taken alongside the COVID-19 vaccines and there is really nothing much that happens, as well as taking the retroviral therapy. They can be taken alongside the COVID-19 vaccines, and there is no issue whatsoever that happens to the person who has done that.
So people who are scared, especially people living with HIV, people have been scared of taking the COVID-19 vaccines because of all these myths and all these perceptions that people have. No one should get scared. You can take the vaccine at the same time with the ARVs. Actually get the jab in the morning and take your ARVs in the morning.
Yes, And no effect whatsoever.
effect whatsoever.
Yes.
Wow.
And even good enough, there is research to that. So it can be taken. So I encourage, once again, people living with HIV to take the jab. I have done all my 2 jabs and I'm happy. Yes.
Wow. Anything you have?
Yeah, I think I needed to know the message from Alupo to people living with HIV/AIDS. Any other message that you could be having for people away from what you've been discussing?
Oh, thank you, Flavor. To wind up, I want to start by thanking you for hosting me at Tuwanlo. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Yes, it's been a pleasure being here and also talking to the people of Northern Uganda. We have a project there called Aga Khan Foundation COVID-19 Relief Project that we started by an official launch. You know, we're giving out food items, we're giving out bicycles, which bicycles are supposed to be used to take medicine to the communities, to people living with HIV, but also to do psychosocial support, counseling, and etc. for people living with HIV. We gave out any item that is that can
who are the
help
people who use the
mitigate
bicycle?
COVID-19.
The focal persons, the LCs? I don't know.
Okay, that's a very good question.
Yeah, because when you say we are giving out bicycles, and who is exactly in charge of?
Okay, these bicycles were given to peer buddies, people, leaders in different groups of people living with HIV.
The groups.
Yes. So the leader in that group is one who received the bicycle. So those bicycles, they go to the art centers, pick the medicine, and take, especially to those people who stay in far-to-reach areas, just deliver the ARVs there. And then we also give them bags, those same peer buddies, you know, to ease their work and ensure that, you know, they can reach these communities together with a small facilitation for transport. So that project was sponsored by the Khan Foundation together with the European Union. We thank them. We also want to encourage, and I emphasize, those who have not yet been vaccinated, please go get vaccinated to prevent yourself, your loved ones from, you know, contracting COVID-19. We also want to, I want to encourage people living with HIV to adhere to medication. It's very important. You see the ARVs, that is our life, you know.
It's true.
That is our life. So if someone does not take the ARVs, the immune system gets weaker and weaker, and that's when you hear somebody has died of AIDS-related death. I always hear some people saying HIV. HIV is the virus, and then when it advances, it becomes AIDS.
Yes.
So AIDS-related death, together with issues like tuberculosis, meningitis, and etc. So when someone takes medication at the right time, right doses, and etc., they're able to boost their immunity to fight off such diseases that come in to affect the system. So take your medicine, right time, right doses. And in case of side effects, please visit your nearest health facility or art center for guidance. And then finally, I think I want to come to a close. I want to encourage people living with HIV to, you know, to always consult in case there is anything. We are available, the National Forum of People Living with HIV. You could reach us on info@nafophanu.org.
A quick one before
you close.
You talk about consult. You remind me of a story in Gulu that was done among people with disability and living with HIV/AIDS. How did you manage to contain such situation? People with disability and they're living with positive.
With HIV.
Yes, they were complaining about consultations. They cannot get access. You know, some of the things. Just briefly on that.
Okay, that's a good one. I also think I did not touch to it when I was talking about our cohorts that we cover as Nafophanu. But we also cognizant of the fact that we have people living with HIV and also people living with disability. And again, when it comes to stigma, people living with disability, key population, the stigma is double. It's double. So then how do we handle such situations when someone is living with HIV and a disability and they want maybe to access their antiviral therapy and they can't access the health facilities? We have what is called the DSD models, differentiated service delivery models, that some are based in facilities but some go to communities, whereby medicine is taken to the community and people access it from it. And then we also have the bit I've talked about. We have what is called expert clients in every district forum. These are people who they're about 13, an executive of 13, including the coordinator, the chairperson, the secretary, and all those positions, finance and everything. These are people now who are in charge of our members in the districts. I talked about it earlier, but still I can say it. These people are responsible for anyone living with HIV, whether it's key population, whether it is disability, and anything else. So usually such stories, we don't take them lightly. When we see them, we contact the respective coordinators to take action. Because for us at Nafophanu, we want people living with HIV to live quality but also productive lives. So that when you find someone living with HIV, can equally do the same thing with someone who is not living with HIV.
Yes, as we conclude, before you go, since we are talking about people living with HIV and COVID-19 at the same time, we know that the effects of COVID-19 have been diverse. For example, young children who have gotten pregnant and have also gotten infected with HIV. As Nafophanu, have you looked into that space?
Okay, that's a very good one. Like I earlier said, we target different cohorts, and under one network of Uganda Young Positives, together with the Uganda network of UNIPA, we look at such issues. Their thematic area or their main target is young people. So they reach out to them and ensure that at least one, they do the test. It's very important to test for HIV. And if I may ask, but I don't want to ask.
Ask.
When did any of us have the HIV test?
December.
Okay, so it is important to, like you all know, HIV right now does not have cure. Yes, we are developing the vaccines, but they are still on trials. So the best way to prevent yourself from getting HIV is to, abstain, consistently and correctly use the condom, and also be faithful to your partner. But apart from that, ensure that you don't get into the risky habits that will get you to get HIV, because right now we do not have cure. All we have are the ARVs that can sustain our lives. So it's advisable that people prevent themselves from getting HIV. Together with the young people, actually the HIV prevalence among young people is high, so just encourage them to do so. They should prevent themselves from getting no cure. But with the science that is moving around, you see the COVID-19 vaccine was discovered very fast. Who knows, tomorrow we could also have a cure for HIV, as well as the injectables that are going to take one injection for 6 months, one injection for 1 year, and it will reduce the pill burden. Those days we would have 8 tablets, now we have 1 tablet. 1 tablet. Time will come and we'll have 1 injection for 6 months, 1 injection for 1 year. So before all that, all we can say is please test for HIV. If positive, that you take your medication at the right time, in the right doses.
Anything else you think you've missed out?
Yes.
Concluding remarks.
Yes, being a communications person, I also want to encourage viewers to visit our pages. We have a Facebook page, which is Nafophanu 1. We have a Twitter page, which is Nafophanu. You can also visit our website, www.nafophanu.org, and then send us an email on info@nafophanu.org. All those platforms are there to serve you. And bye for now. God bless.
when she talks of Nafophanu, I want to make it clear. Nafophanu is Nafophanu. Nafophanu. Because somebody may say NAF just in a short term.
Yes.
I think that's all I wanted to emphasize.
Thank you too.
Then ayo obedo lea alupo werwa matika aki bin makinoni Nafophanu National Forum for People Living with HIV/AIDS Network Uganda gitika konyo Dano magitika kwa kituo Jonyo iko ikarman me COVID-19 ikarman me yara gwera ni luoro ti chuny Dano madir so bere kami iwa fonyo bene ka poyo wiwa madite ka mi iwa jime igni weng wa ko ni ning lutiano matiano joma gitike ngolo jime igni weng ber kanyamne kany kumbeti ichawa wa me bogalam kolegni wagika kany kong uko wadak dira chama
Mana ye Wangu TV, ngej Matye ki Galwang.